Welcome back. While a social entrepreneur pursues innovative ideas that have the potential to solve a community problem at large, think DevTouch, that uses technology to make the workplace more inclusive, or BusyMed, that's like an Uber Eats, but for pharmacies in local communities. But while such businesses have the potential to contribute significantly to inclusive economic growth while making that social impact, they are often misunderstood. And joining me now for more on the conversation is Kalnisha Singh, who is a development economist with KD Strategies, as well as entrepreneur and founder of Ingcweti Phumzile Mthembu, that's also known as Kwezi Books. Thank you both so much for your time. Kalnisha, I think I'll start with you to give us just an overview and maybe an aerial view picture of what is a social impact enterprise.
That's such a great question, because there's such a vast array of social impact enterprises that exist. Essentially, what a social impact enterprise is a company for profit that, through their operations or through their product offering, want to address a specific social ill or a gap in the social marketplace. So you've given us great examples, but if you think about specific healthcare providers that are looking at serving lower income markets or rural communities, they would be the sort of classic definition of a social enterprise. It's usually a for-profit mechanism, so somebody has to pay for a service or there's a financial transaction, but the intent behind the business model is specifically serving a social need. And that's the sort of long and short of it here.
Phumzile, I'm going to bring you in, but just quickly, why is it then, confused with a non-profit organization? Because you would think a business that's taking care of social, economic issues, would be seen as a valuable business by both government, the private sector, and so on. Why is it so easy, just quickly, to be confused as a non-profit?
So there's a variety of reasons, right? Because the core mandate typically of the social enterprise is a social issue or a social function that was typically historically dealt with by non-profits. It's kind of the prevailing mindset in the marketplace. But also in terms of how the social entrepreneurs present their businesses, typically, because we're all very passionate about the businesses, we talk about the service offering first before we talk about the financial model.
Yeah. And I think we experienced that with Phumzile. We met at the Enterprise Development and Supplier Development Summit that was out in Soweto. And we actually had that conversation where you went right into talking about your books, what you're trying to deal with, and so on. And that passion really came through. So give us just an overview of the business that you are in and why you chose to go that social impact route.
Okay, so we write books for children mind shaping. So we believe that it's high time we start educating our kids about mental health from a young age, especially on the foundation phase. So what I did, I saw, especially after I did my research, I saw that there's actually a huge gap when it comes to mental health and children. And after I've done my research, I understood that the youngest person to commit suicide in South Africa was a 6-year-old boy. So it then actually shook me to my core. Yeah, it shows that there's an actual mental breakdown that is happening in the foundation phase, and if we are not doing anything about it, we are actually not going to get the next generation to actually become leaders and become the best version of themselves. So I then decided to teach children about mental health through storytelling. So I write books for children mind shaping. I have 3 books in total, and 1 book is Affirmations for Children Mind Shaping, where I am educating parents about on how to introduce the culture of affirming positive statements and how they can actually prepare their kids to go out to the world and become the best version of themselves. And then the second book, this is where I am then saying, Ukwezi, speak up and be brave, Tabo, I met her. So with that book, I am saying, let's create safe spaces for our kids to understand emotions and know that there's no boy or girl emotion. And the last book is Ukwezi, the Township Girl, Bully Me No More. With that book, I am raising awareness on the bullying that is happening in the foundation phase and how we as parents can also help them heal from such traumatic experiences. So yeah.
And Kalnisha, all these topics very important if we are to create a healthy society that can contribute to growing the economy, growing our country and so on. So really that link between society and the economy. But if we must talk money, and Phumzile, I'm going to come back to you to say some of the challenges that you face, because a crazy story that you told me is that, someone would say, oh, give us the books for free, we'll go distribute them. She's like, but I'm a business. So what are some of the issues that you've come across that social impact entrepreneurs and enterprises face when it comes to attracting the right kind of funding and financing for their business?
It's so interesting because, I think that there's two kind of separate issues. The first issue is understanding who you're selling to, right? Attracting finance from that perspective is understanding who your customer is, who you want to sell the product to, who has the purchasing power but also the interest in buying that service. In this case, it's probably going to be some sort of funding agency that wants to buy the books on behalf of some further social initiative that they are looking to support, right? But it's understanding what that customer looks like. On the other side of the question is, what are the funding agencies or the mechanisms to attract financing or capital for purposes of growth of the business? And what I find, and what we all find, is that at the early stages of a business, the founders, entrepreneurs, typically conflate the two kind of markets. You are talking to two very different markets. Somebody that's going to buy your product and somebody that's going to give you money to grow your business. It's not the same conversation. It's not the same marketing strategy. So it's very, very important for you to have a very, very clear idea of, firstly, of who the customer is, and then secondly, who the potential capital providers are, and then how to talk to them in their language.
Phumzile, is a light bulb going off in that regard? Is there something that you recognizing that maybe in your business you should, look at exploring that? But also just share with us some of those obstacles that you have faced as a social impact business in attracting money.
So it becomes very difficult, especially when it comes to funding. And when you say you are writing books for children mind shaping, and they're like, okay, and then they actually mistaken you with an NPO or an NGO. So what I have, especially from what you just spoke about, I've also what I did was to do a lot of research in the companies or find potential investors. I would then look at their mandates and what they are actually looking for in terms of funding and what businesses are they looking for, and then I would then study that. And what I've also done is that I would then also apply for incubation centers. So I have then understood that TechnoServe, they have a lot of youth ideas programs that they actually run. So I then enroll my business in such programs to make sure that I am then also skilled and also have access to tools in terms of how to grow and sustain the business itself, as much as it is addressing social illnesses. However, it's a business at the end of the day. And in that way, after I have done my research, I understood that I can actually say this and this in terms of having to give the potential investor what they need from me.
So having done that homework, Phumzile, before we go to the break, Kalshina, talk us through maybe just the importance of actually that research when we are talking about the different kinds of markets that you're speaking to, identifying the different stakeholders, whether you're going to a bank for that funding or you're going to an institution that's going to buy up all your books. How important is it for entrepreneurs to really invest, as Phumzile is saying, to put in that research before hitting the ground running?
I think it's absolutely critical. And it's the biggest inhibitor of small business, not just social enterprise, I think, in the country, is the failure to do sufficient market research in terms of what you are trying to attract into your business. It's a foundational key to understanding who you need to speak to and what you need to say, right? Because people will fund, investors will fund projects that align with their vision and their mandates and their performance indicators. Similarly, a bank is going to finance something that meets their specific criteria. So if you walk in without understanding what those criteria are, you're almost setting yourself up for failure. Market research is, however, also challenging. I mean, the big corporates have budgets and their whole teams of people that conduct this market research. I think small businesses, entrepreneurs need to become aware, self-teach themselves how to conduct market research, how to segment the market, how to ask the right questions, and then use your networks of friends, of people you know, and just ask them to be your guinea pigs, for lack of a better word. I mean, have your friends and networks complete your survey so that you can understand, you my target market, is what I'm selling going to meet your need.
And Phumzile, just before we close that conversation from both of you, to just perhaps round up for us, talking about social impact entrepreneurs, where you are hoping to go with your books. I know that you are translating it to other languages to make it a lot more accessible, but also just, key takeaways for entrepreneurs out there that are looking to make that impact in society, directions for them to go, to not be mistaken as someone who's doing it for no money, but actually a business that's running. Phumzile, I think I'll start with you.
I think apart from just passion and motivation, it should come with purpose. So if you understand your vision and where you are actually going, then it will be easier for you, especially as an entrepreneur that is actually in the social enterprise sector. So you need to then understand your market and understand the potential investors that you need to talk to. As she just mentioned, that you need to do market research. So without market research, I don't think I would have been able to make meet necessary requirements, especially when it comes to potential investors. So with social enterprises out there or social entrepreneurs out there, market research is the key, because without that, then you have no actual proper way in terms of how to address certain points.
Yeah, navigating that space. Kalnisha?
I think if I were to leave a parting shot, there is so much funding available for social impact enterprises, not just in South Africa or on the continent, but globally. There are trillions of dollars looking for projects to fund, right? The biggest hurdle that we as South Africans face is our limited scope. So we tend to think smaller than we should.
Yeah.
So my advice to all social entrepreneurs is think big. When you're doing your market research, don't just look
limited to
the country. Look at the continent, look at the world, because there are dollars looking for home. Right.
Ladies, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like it could go on for a while. Thank you both for your time. And that was Phumzile Mthembu, who is the founder of Ingcweti, as well as development economist with KD StrategiesKalnisha Singh. Stay with us. We'll be back to wrap the show just after the break.